Lastly, I'm doing YouTube videos on skincare with my friend Amanda, and we do those every Tuesday, take questions and just cover various skincare topics. As some of you may know, I've been in the skincare business since 1983 when I started working for the Blistex Corporation, formulating Blistex and a lot of other skincare products. I know quite a bit about skincare. In fact, I know a lot about how the sausage is made in terms of skincare products. Skincare is a really nasty business, you guys. Really, really nasty. Every time I see commercials, I saw one yesterday, it just made me so angry I wanted to throw something at the TV. Hydrolyze. I usually don't call out companies, but this one is so egregious and so nasty and so rude. Telling you about some eye cream, some cream you put under your eyes for bags under the eyes, and supposed to get rid of your bags and get rid of purpling under the eyes. Look, if you got purple under the eyes, you got bags under the eyes, you got a circulatory problem, you got a blood problem, you got a heart problem, you got a blood pressure issue. Blood is not circulating as it should. It has nothing to do with eyes, and what's worse, you're running higher risks for all kinds of degenerative diseases and an early demise, and for a nasty company to purport or pretend or to lie to people to tell them they can put this Hydrolyze. That's the name of the company, and I rarely call companies out, but this one was so egregious. Hydrolyze. You can put it on your eyes. If you listen to the commercial, by the way, they never tell you that it actually does anything. Now, listen to these commercials very closely. I have a degree in journalism, and I wrote advertising for a while before I went to pharmacy school. So I listen to commercials, and I read commercials like a scientist and also like a copywriter. And let me tell you, there is some nasty, nasty, nastiness going on in the skincare world and in the healthcare world in terms of marketing and in terms of advertising. Anyway, this commercial for Hydrolyze, you rub this cream on your under the eyes, and it's supposed to get rid of puffiness under the eyes. Baloney! Baloney! How do people live with themselves by lying like this? If you have a puffiness under the eyes, you got a circulatory problem. It's a heart circulation issue, and it really is. It's not cosmetic. It's serious business, and it's not a cream or topical issue. Anyway, didn't mean to digress on this. We covered puffiness under the eyes on a YouTube video, myself and Amanda. And if you're interested in learning more about that, send me an email, ben@ksco.com. ben@ksco.com. We'll put you on the list for these YouTube videos that we're doing. All right, let's get back to wound healing nutrition. We've been talking about it for a couple weeks now, keeping in mind that wound healing is about anti-aging. Wound healing nutrition equals anti-aging nutrition equals reversing degenerative disease nutrition equals immune boosting nutrition equals good health and vitality nutrition. It's all the same thing. It's all the same thing because in terms of our health, there's only two things that are happening in the body. In terms of health, it seems really complicated. There's 12,000 plus different diseases, according to the World Health Organization. There's 1,000 different skin diseases, according to the World Health Organization. There's hundreds of different autoimmune diseases, according to the World Health Organization. But there's only two things that are happening in the body at any given moment. We're either building up or we're breaking down. Really, there's only one thing in terms of net. We're either net building or net breaking down. The body's like a business. You're either in the red or you're in the black. Period. That's it. In the red, in the black. If we don't keep this principle of simplicity in mind, this idea that we're either net building or net breaking down, if we don't keep this simplicity in mind, we are going to be overwhelmed by the vast amount of information and baloney products like Hydrolyze, baloney, crapola, lying, deceitful products, and medications, and formulas, and tinctures, and diets, and nostrums, and protocols, and exercises, and all the things that we're supposed to be spending our money on and doing. And I got friends, unfortunately, naturopaths and alternative practitioners and people, herbalists, and people who are just applying the same kind of deceitful medical model, this deceitful model to natural medicine. And it's not fair. It's just not right. Health is easy, folks. Health is easy because our bodies are meant to be healthy. Our bodies are designed to be healthy. When we understand that the human body in its form today is at least 100,000 years old, or maybe longer, maybe older, when we understand that the human body has evolved over the course of millennia to be equipped to fight disease, to rebuild after it's wounded, to rebuild correctly after it's broken, the body is equipped. If we understand that the body is equipped for disease-free life, and if we're not experiencing this, the only thing we gotta do is figure out what's mucking up the system. That's it. And as we said so many times, there's only three things that muck up the system. A lack of nutrition, basic nutrition, the mighty 90 essential nutrients, as Dr. Wallach so brilliantly calls it, the mighty 90 essential nutrients, your vitamins, your minerals, your amino acids, your essential fatty acids. Your mighty 90 essential nutrients, a lack of your mighty 90 essential nutrients, a lack of oxygen, and accumulation of poisons and toxicity. That's it. That's it. Well, so what does that mean? That means to reverse anything. Anything. I don't care if it's an autoimmune disease or a heart disease or any kind of degenerative disease. To reverse anything that's going wrong in the body, put the nutrients back in, put the oxygen back in, and figure out how to blow off that toxicity through exhalation and correct any kind of digestive issues. In terms of wound healing, that means nutriate, oxygenate, detoxify. In terms of topical wound healing, because we're talking about an organ that's on the outside, we have double access to the organ called the skin. We can also address this issue in a second way, and that is topically. That's it. Nutriate, oxygenate, detoxify. Nutriate, oxygenate, detoxify. Nutriate, that means the mighty 90 essential nutrients. Oxygenate, that means breathing correctly. And detoxify, that means breathing correctly and protecting the digestive system. And also, by the way, sugar in high amounts is considered a toxin to the body. So making sure you're keeping your blood sugar stable. That's it, folks. That's it. You don't need anything fancy schmancy. You need to nutriate, you need to oxygenate, you need to detoxify, which means correct digestive issues and stabilize blood sugar. All right, I'm Pharmacist Ben. We're going to tell you about DHEA and DHEA's cousin, its non-toxic cousin, when we come back from our break, and take your phone calls as well. 855-660-4261 is our number. All right, we are talking wound healing. I've gotten a lot of letters from my wound healing cream. I sent out about 100 samples yesterday. Got quite a bit more to send out. If you're interested in checking out my wound healing cream, you're going to have to give me a week or two to send it out to you. It's made with omega-6s and vitamin C and cholesterol, topical cholesterol, which actually has some great wound healing properties. And I'm sending out free samples. You can shoot me an email, ben@ksco.com. Make sure you put your address in a way that I can cut and paste your address right from your letter or from your email to my label program. That way I don't have to type up all your addresses and I can just cut and paste. So just put it like an address style, name and then address on 3 lines so I can cut and paste. Anyway, if you're interested in checking that out, you can send me an email, ben@ksco.com. Okay, so we're talking wound healing, which is really basically a type of healing. It's basically building. It's basically the same thing as dealing with any kind of degenerative crisis. A wound is like a degenerative issue instead of regenerating. I should say a slow healing wound or a non-healing wound is like a degenerative condition. Also, if you just are in surgery or you burn yourself or cut yourself, these are strategies that you can use. And again, if you have any degenerative health issue, these are strategies. All the things we've talked about in the last couple of weeks are strategies you can use. Last we spoke yesterday, we were talking about DHEA, which is a really, really cool substance. It's not a nutritional substance. It's more of a hormone. Some people will call it a pre-hormone, meaning it gets converted into active hormones. But DHEA has got a lot of its own activity. It's super well-researched. It's one of the most well-researched of all supplements. I consider DHEA to be the quintessential anti-aging, non-nutritional supplement. It's not one of the mighty 90 nutrients, but it is powerfully anti-aging, even if it's not one of the mighty 90 essential nutrients. Nonetheless, by adding a daily dose to your nutritional protocol, especially if you're over the age of 45 or 50, this can be one of the smartest moves you can make in terms of longevity, in terms of vitality, in terms of sexual performance, in terms of your immune system, in terms of weight loss. It's one of the most powerful weight loss supplements you could ever take. It's very safe in small amounts, even larger amounts. There's not a lot of toxicity. If you do take too much, you might break out a little bit or have oily skin issues. Men who take too much may experience a little bit of hair loss. Women who take too much may experience something called hirsutism, which is when you get body hair or facial hair. So you don't want to take too much, but certainly 1 milligram a day, 5 milligrams a day, 10 milligrams a day is not too much. You can also have your DHEA levels tested and then dose yourself accordingly. If you have a slow healing wound, if you're older, If you have a slow healing wound and you're older, if you have a slow healing wound and you're older and you're a diabetic, or even if you don't have a wound, you just want to support your youth and vitality, you want to lose weight, you want to support your immune system and your blood sugar metabolism. DHEA is wonderful for diabetics, helps support blood sugar metabolism. You should probably consider getting yourself on a small dose of DHEA. As I said, a good place to start is maybe 1 milligram a day or 5 milligrams a day. You can get up to 10 milligrams a day. Some people take 50 milligrams a day, although I don't recommend anywhere near that much. And as I say, you might want to have your DHEA levels checked before you begin, and then periodically every 6 to 12 months or so to make sure that you're not taking too much or you're getting enough DHEA. You can also use DHEA in a topical cream as well. DHEA will penetrate through that surface of the skin, the stratum corneum, the raincoat on the top of the skin. Remember, the skin has a kind of coating on the surface that you can think of as a very, 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 very thin fingernail. It's made up of the same material as your fingernail or the outside of your hair, a hard protein called keratin, which is the same kind of protein that's in horses' hooves or rhinoceros horns. So you basically have a rhinoceros horn on the surface of your skin, although it's very thin, about a tenth as thick as a piece of paper. This layer protects the lower tissues, and it keeps water-soluble material from getting into the skin. But fatty material, that'll get in through the stratum corneum, and DHEA gets in through the stratum corneum very effectively, and you can use DHEA in a topical cream. One of the advantages, well, there's a couple advantages to using DHEA in a topical cream over taking it orally. First of all, it goes right into the blood if you take it orally. If you apply it on the skin, it goes right into the blood. If you take it orally, then it's got to go through the digestive system and it's got to get processed in the liver. But if you put it right on the skin, it goes right through into the blood. Also, you get a kind of slower release when you use DHEA in a cream, a sustained release. The DHEA kind of travels into the blood in a slower, more controlled fashion. When you take a DHEA capsule, it goes through your digestive system, goes into your blood, goes into your liver, and then it gets your blood levels of DHEA spike. They go up really high, and then they drop. They spike, and then they drop. If you put it on a cream, if you put your DHEA on your skin in a cream, you get a slow, sustained release, and you may be able to bypass side effects when you use it topically, side effects which can be caused by taking too much of an oral dose. Then there's another form of DHEA which has been in the news the last 10 years, 15 years or so. It's called 7-keto DHEA. We'll call it 7-keto. That's its nickname. 7-keto is not converted into hormones like DHEA is. DHEA is converted into estrogen, and it's converted into testosterone. So if you're thinking about hormone replacement therapy, DHEA supplementation may allow you to bypass toxic hormone replacement therapy. Make no mistake about it, estrogen is a toxic hormone in a sense if you're not processing it correctly. Estrogen has to be broken down. It requires healthy digestion. It requires probiotics. It requires healthy fat digestion, a healthy liver. If estrogen is not processed correctly, toxic forms of estrogen can be produced. Same with testosterone. If testosterone is not processed correctly, something called DHT, which can have negative effects on the body, can be produced. But if you use 7-keto DHEA, you can prevent the formation of excess estrogen and excess testosterone, which can form these toxic metabolites. I'll tell you what I mean when we come back from our break. I'm Pharmacist Ben. 855-660-4261 is our number. You're listening to The Bright Side. We'll be back at this number. We'll get your calls here in just a sec. I want to just say a couple more things about DHEA and 7-keto DHEA, or 7-keto as we'll be calling it. Let's see. DHEA is converted into other hormones, especially estrogen and testosterone. And estrogen and testosterone, in turn, are broken down into other breakdown products, or metabolites, as they're called. And some of the metabolites of estrogen, especially, and also testosterone, can have some toxicity. And when it comes to estrogen, some of the metabolites can cause problems with fibers and fibrosis and blood clotting as well. And there is a lot of literature that is suggestive of toxicity associated with hormone replacement therapy and with estrogen in general. If you want to use DHEA, but you're concerned about estrogen or concerned about testosterone or excess estrogen or excess testosterone, think about 7-keto DHEA. 7-keto is not converted into other steroid hormones like DHEA, so you don't have to deal with any estrogen toxicity or even testosterone toxicity. By the way, have you seen these commercials now from law firms who are who are wanting to represent folks who've had issues with androgel and other testosterone replacement therapy. Listen, every single drug you take, whether it's a hormone drug or a pharmaceutical, a straight pharmaceutical type of drug, synthetic type of drug, they all have side effects. They all have toxicities associated with them, and testosterone and androgel are no different. If you want to avoid toxicity associated with testosterone or estrogen and you want to use DHEA, think about 7-keto DHEA. You won't have to deal with oily skin. You won't have to deal with the appearance of facial hair if you're a woman, or body hair, hirsutism as it's called. You won't have to deal with hair loss if you're a guy. 7-keto DHEA will still give you the thermogenic benefits, the weight loss benefits. It'll give you the insulin control benefits, the blood sugar control benefits. It'll give you the wound healing benefits. It'll give you the bodybuilding benefits. It'll give you the libido increasing benefits, but you won't have to deal with any of the toxicity or side effects, and that's called 7-keto DHEA. Then there's the whole estrogen connection, and there's a very important relationship between estrogen and wound healing. Estrogen actually accelerates wound healing via this fiber formation property that it has, but estrogen's got its own set of toxicity associated with it, and some of it has to do with fiber formation. There's a really horrible autoimmune disease that involves excessive fiber formation. It's called scleroderma, and we'll talk about that a little bit tomorrow. We'll talk about some eye problems also that are associated with excess fiber formation. And we'll tell you about estrogen, how it relates to the whole thing as well. And then we'll talk a little bit about some of the other steroid hormones as we continue talking about wound healing nutrition and also anti-aging nutrition and degenerative or anti-degenerative disease nutrition as well on the bright side. Our number is 855-660-4261. Thanks for listening, friends. Got a couple lines open for you. Let's take our first phone call of the day. Cindy in Virginia. What is up, Cindy? How you doing? Oh, Cindy, can you pot Cindy up? I can't hear Cindy. Cindy. No, I can't hear you. I'm going to have to let you go, Cindy. Call us back. I don't know. I hear you vaguely in the background. I'm not sure if the listeners can hear you, but I can't hear you. So, what's that? We'll have to. I think Cindy's going to call back. Cindy wants to talk about scars. If you're interested in checking out my scar cream, wound healing scar cream, I'll be selling it here probably in the next couple of months or maybe in the next month or so. But in the meantime, I'm sending out free samples of it. If you're interested in checking it out, if you got a wound that won't heal, or if you're thinking about going into surgery, or you know what else? One of the neat things about topical wound healing creams is, at least my topical wound healing cream, is you can use it to protect yourself from wrinkles. You can use it as an anti-aging product. You can use it as a general moisturizer, and it's just as a general skin health product. And if you're interested in checking out a free sample, you can send me an email, ben@ksco.com, ben@ksco.com. Put in the subject heading, wound heal cream, so I'll see your email right away. And then if you can also put your address in a way that I can cut and paste your address right from the email to my label making software, it'll be much easier for me. That's ben@ksco.com. Cindy, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, there we go. How you doing, Cindy?
You can hear me.
I hear you nice.
I'm doing pretty good. I did realize actually that the scar is permanent. I'm working on oxygenation. I'm working on my digestive tract. Okay?
Tell me about your scars again. Remind me. What kind of scars were you doing?
I don't know. I don't want to count all my scars.
No. Are they surgical scars?
They're all surgical scars except for one, and that's what I'd like to discuss.
Okay.
I had a very, very tiny little scar in my upper lip, okay? And nobody knew I had it but me.
It's a scar? It was a scar or wound?
It came from having a respirator put in.
Okay, but it's permanent. Is it like a scar is going to be hard? It'll feel like hard tissue. Is that what that is? It feels hard to the touch?
It never felt hard.
Okay. So
maybe it's not a scar.
Okay.
What's happened with this is over the last, I guess it's 6 months now, a tiny little thing in my upper lip. Now where that was on my upper lip, it's higher. It's between my upper lip and the bottom of my nose. It's gone up to between my upper lip and halfway up, and it's wider.
It's getting worse? It's getting worse?
It's getting worse.
Okay, well, then that's not a scar. A scar is a permanent kind of thing. It doesn't get worse. It doesn't always feel hard, but it doesn't feel hard. It'll feel different. I don't want to say hard, but it'll feel different. And it isn't going to change. A scar doesn't change. By nature, a scar is permanent. So it doesn't get better, it doesn't get worse, it just stays the same. And as I've said before, it's one of the ways the body protects itself. So you're not going to necessarily get rid of it once it's there. The key to scar formation, or to preventing scars, is to prevent them from happening. And that's while the wound is healing, to make sure that you got enough nutrition, that you're oxygenating correctly. If you're using topical products like my topical omega vitamin C product can help as well. And then, of course, making sure that there's no toxicity in the body through the digestive system. That's real, and also sugar toxicity as well. And so you want to prevent the scar from forming. Once the scar is there, it's there. Now, is it darker or lighter? Did you say it was lighter?
It's a little bit lighter. I mean,
Yeah.
people actually, nobody knew I had it, and now people around me are asking me what that is.
Is it on your upper lip you're talking about?
It's on my upper lip, yeah.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to get rid of that. That's there permanent. Probably, you have pigment-making cells, and those are responsible for giving your skin its characteristic color. When you get a wound, a lot of times those pigment-making cells aren't going to be there. They'll either die off or they won't get replaced on some level, and that's what accounts for the whitening effect. Now, there's a couple ways you can get white. One is from an autoimmune disease where the body actually kills its own or attacks its own pigment-making cells. That's called vitiligo. And that usually occurs in big blotches, so it doesn't sound like that's what you're dealing with. But a lot of times after you have a wound of some kind, a surgical wound or a burn or a cut or scrape, the pigment-making cells in that area will disappear, and you'll end up with a white spot or a white line where that wound was. And that isn't going away, Cindy. That's going to stay. That's going to stay. There's nothing you can do about that. And you can just consider it like it gives you character, like Cindy Crawford, her little mole gives her a little bit of character. But once the trick to scar formation is to prevent them, as I've said. There's a really neat vitamin that you could take. I'll tell you what that is when we come back from our break, that you can take while your wound is healing that can take it orally while your wound is healing that can help minimize scar formation. Thanks for your call, Cindy. Appreciate it. Hope we helped you out. I'm Pharmacist Ben. Got lines open for you. 855-660-4261 is our number. We will be back on the bright side right after this. Welcome back to the bright side from foodnavigator.com. Lessons to be learned from Coca-Cola's vitamin water U-turn. Apparently Coca-Cola, who owns vitamin water, changed the sweetener in U-turn in vitamin water. How many of you guys drink this stuff anyway? Vitamin water products. There's a whole bunch of different ones. They went from fructose and sugar to stevia and sugar. Got a thumbs down, and now they're going back to fructose and sugar. I get a lot of questions about the fructose in the Beyond Tangy Tangerine. And just to be clear here, there is a little bit of fructose in the Beyond Tangy Tangerine. And also to be clear, fructose has got some problems associated with it, especially high fructose corn syrup. But the amount of fructose that you get in the Beyond Tangy Tangerine is just a tiny, tiny, tiny little bit. Probably about a tenth as much as you get in a glass of orange juice, maybe more, maybe less, maybe about a 50th or so of the amount of fructose that you get in a glass of orange juice. Most people wouldn't drink or eat vitamins if they tasted them, because vitamins don't taste very good in supplemental fashion. In foods, of course, they're disguised, so you can't really taste them. But in a supplement, if you're going to drink or have if you're going to taste the vitamins or minerals for that matter, they have to have a little bit of flavor or sweetener associated with them. That's why we put a little bit of fructose in the Beyond Tangy Tangerine, which now Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 peach flavor tastes super, super good. All right, our number 855-660-4261. 855-660-4261. Got a couple lines open for you here. And I told you before we went to break, I'd tell you about a really cool vitamin for dealing with wounds, for wound healing. We've talked about it a little bit in the past, and that is vitamin E. If you are healing, if you have a burn, or if you pop a zit, or if you have some kind of traumatic skin injury, or if you want to prevent a scar and you're about to have surgery, you might want to think about taking some vitamin E, 400 to 800 international units a day. Now, doctors don't like people to take vitamin E before surgery because vitamin E has a little bit of some blood thinning effects, and when you're having a surgical procedure, they don't want you bleeding too much. But the blood thinning effects from vitamin E are marginal. You don't really get a lot of blood thinning effects, but you certainly do get a lot of wound healing effects. And there's different forms of vitamin E. If you want to explore the idea of using vitamin E for healing, taking 400 to 800 international units of vitamin E, you might want to think about using either the deluxe form of vitamin E, the high-tech form of vitamin E, which is called tocotrienols, or you might want to think about taking mixed tocopherols. Vitamin E is one of those tricky vitamins that's got multiple forms. There's actually 8 different forms of vitamin E. The kind that most of us take when we're taking a vitamin E supplement is called alpha tocopherol. That's the major form of vitamin E, at least in supplements, alpha tocopherol. But there's actually 7 other forms of vitamin E, which is why I take mixed tocopherols. Mixed tocopherols will give you all 4 of the tocopherol forms, and then if you want to take the other 4, you'll have to take mixed tocotrienols. And there are mixed tocotrienols and mixed tocopherol products. Now, vitamin E is a little tricky if you want to try to get it from foods, because there's not a lot of foods with high concentrations of vitamin E. Most of the literature on vitamin E talks about using 200 to 400 international units a day of vitamin E, and there's not a lot of vitamin E in foods. The densest forms of vitamin E, densest food sources of vitamin E are things like wheat germ oil or sunflower seeds or pumpkin seeds maybe, and those will only get you about 30 or 40 international units a day, and that's per 4 ounces or so of oil or 4 ounces or so of seeds. So it's very difficult to get vitamin E, enough vitamin E in through foods, which is why supplementing is so important. If you are supplementing with vitamin E, it's probably a good idea to make sure you're taking all your fat-soluble supplements. That's one of the neat things about the longevity supplements, especially the Beyond Tangy Tangerine and the Ultimate Daily and the Mighty 90 and the Healthy Start Pack, is you get all of your nutrients in a balanced form. And that really is important. It's tricky to supplement. It's really not a great idea. It's not great that we have to supplement. I mean, we have to supplement because the stuff's not in our food, but it really is unfortunate that we've created a world and we created a food supply that is so devoid, so deficient in nutritional value that we have to supplement. Nonetheless, we do have to supplement, in my opinion, and the literature on supplementation with individual supplements as well as getting on an entire supplement program is really voluminous. Just get on Google Scholar, or scholar.google.com or PubMed.com, and do some research on your favorite supplements, and you're going to see paper after paper after paper, article after article after article. And not only that, it doesn't have to be just literature. It could be your own personal experience. You'll notice that once you start a supplement program, once you start yourself on the Healthy Start Pack, once you start using the Beyond Tangy Tangerine, your markers of health improve. And it happens across the board. Now, it may not improve as much as you want because you probably have other things going on, including toxicity and the wrong kinds of foods, but it's almost impossible not to notice at least a few benefits, some improvement in some of the markers, whether it be weight loss or whether it's energy levels or whatever it is, digestive improvement with the probiotics. It's almost impossible not to notice benefits once you start a supplement program. And the reason this is, and this is so cool, this is such a great gift that the body gives us. The sicker we are, the more deficient we are in nutrients, the faster we turn it around and the faster the body absorbs those nutrients. That's why people who need to lose a lot of weight, 100 pounds or more, will notice that once they start a weight loss program, the pounds start to drop off. Once they start a nutritional supplement program, the pounds start to drop off. Typically, it's a lot harder to lose weight if you don't have that much to lose, and it's much easier to lose weight if you have a lot of weight to lose. Typically, you're not going to notice a huge difference in your health if you start a nutritional supplement program and you're already healthy. But if you're not healthy and you start a nutritional supplement program, it's almost impossible not to notice improvements in all of the markers in health, weight loss, lower blood pressure, weaning yourself off of drugs, feeling better, more energy levels, etc. And this is one of the great gifts that the human body gives us. The sicker we are, the faster we turn it around, and the more nutritionally deficient we are, the faster our body absorbs those nutrients. And this is why I get all of the letters I've gotten over the last 17 years, and that's why you guys who are doing the longevity business know the kind of responses that people get and the kind of responses that you guys get from letters and from phone calls and just from knowing people once they start on a good nutritional supplement program. If you've been to any of the longevity conventions, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you go to the conventions, the longevity conventions, you'll see people who have been in wheelchairs 2 months before they started, 2 months before they're at the convention, now they're walking. You'll see people who have lost 150 pounds. I'm not kidding you, 150 pounds in 1 year by using nutritional supplements. You'll see people who were walking with those walker devices, and now they're not walking with walker devices. You'll see people who are 60 and 70 and 80 years old who are feeling great, all because the gift of the human body is once you give the body what it needs, it does the work. This is so beautiful. The body does the work. We don't have to do the work, but we do have to provide the body with raw materials, and it's not that complicated. There's 90 essential nutrients. They're all found in the Healthy Start Pack. If you haven't given it a shot yet, you owe it to yourself, you owe it to your family, you owe it to everybody who loves you and cares about you to at least give it a shot. If you don't want to try the Healthy Start Pack, which I recommend you do, at least get on the Beyond Tangy Tangerine. It'll cost you around $50 for a month's supply, $50 for a canister of the stuff. And if you're like most folks, you'll see, and within less than 30 days, usually within less than 2 weeks, you'll have more energy, your blood pressure will drop, you'll be weaning yourself off your prescription drugs, you'll be sleeping better, you're just going to feel a lot better. And that is the gift of the human body, and that's the gift of nutritional supplementation, and that's what we talk about every day here on The Bright Side. All right, tomorrow we're going to continue talking about hormones, hormonal health, and hormones that you can use to protect yourself from fibrosis. I'm also going to talk a little bit about scleroderma, which is a really, really miserable autoimmune condition where the body attacks the fiber-making cells. They're called fibroblasts, and you end up with connective tissue, with fibers, with collagen that can form in various organs of the body, similar to fibroids, except now you have fibroids in the various glands and organs of the body, and it is a miserable, painful condition, and it is actually it can very easily cause an early demise. Nobody has to deal with an autoimmune condition, and nobody has to deal with scleroderma once you make a few adjustments. If you're having an autoimmune disease problem, if you have scleroderma, if you have lupus, if you have multiple sclerosis, type 1 diabetes, whatever your autoimmune condition is, please understand it is an ongoing process. It is not something that you have. It's a process that you can turn around by simply changing the way you live your life via foods, via nutrition, via oxygen, and via detoxification. So if you're dealing with scleroderma, or you have a friend or a loved one who's dealing with scleroderma, you're going to want to tune in to our program tomorrow as we cover scleroderma, fiber stimulation in an uncontrolled fashion. By the way, there's also eye diseases, a lot of eye diseases that are caused by excess fiber formation. In fact, one of the leading causes of eye disease is improper wound healing in the eye and improper fiber formation in the eye. Yesterday we talked a little bit about a condition called gutate, I think you say it, which is fiber formation in the eyes. And like all excessive fiber formation conditions, there are nutritional strategies, non-toxic nutritional strategies that you can use to reverse the symptoms and reverse the dysfunctional biochemistry. All right, thanks so much for listening, folks. That's all the time we have for today. I'm Pharmacist Ben. If you're interested in checking out my wound healing cream, send an email to ben@ksco.com. Make sure you put your address and your phone number in a way that I can cut and paste over to my address labels. And if you're interested in checking out the longevity products, you can head over to brightsideben.com and pull down on our shopping cart or call the Brightside Ben phone team at 866-735-2470. That's all the time we have for today. I'm Pharmacist Ben. Have a wonderful, beautiful day. We'll talk to y'all later, folks. Bye for now.